My main focus since day one of opening my practice has not been grow this mega business. My main focus is create products, create programs that help individuals outperform the competition while improving their health and happiness. I
Yeah,
have been so focused on that I just really haven't put any energy into marketing or doing any of this technology stuff
yeah,
to grow my own business. And, whether it's a fault or not, things have gone fairly well for me. But about a year and a half ago, the guys that did, a lot of people have heard of the company Shutterfly.
mhm,
They had a company that this was the beginning of Shutterfly, was Tiny Prints. They built it and they sold it to Shutterfly, and it was a mega deal, $350
yeah.
million. Well,
Wow.
anyway, these two guys reached out to me a year and a half ago, and they have more money than they could spend. I would think that's in my world plenty of money.
Yeah,
And these guys are young and they're really wanting to help the world become a better place. And I feel really honored, but they reached out to me. They I think interviewed all kinds of life coaches and performance coaches, and they reached out to me about a year ago, year and a half ago, and they pitched this idea of creating an app. And like I said, I had for years had people tell me I needed it and people try to partner with me. Well, these two are so good.
Have you enjoyed listening to the IncrediPaul podcast? Are you looking for a way to support it? Or maybe you just want some swag? Check out the IncrediPaul store today. We have shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, hats, stickers, and so much more. Go to IncrediPaul.org, IncrediPaul.org, and click on the store link. Or go to the link in my socials bio and click on the IncrediPaul shop. Looking forward to seeing your IncrediPaul look.
Turn this up, turn this up.
Your professional development is one of the keys to your career success. When you combine your desire to grow with actionable steps, your journey to success becomes an incredible reality. Welcome to the IncrediPaul podcast. And now, sharing his expertise, experience, and excellence with the world, here's your host, Paul Ferranbi.
Hi, I'm Paul Ferranbi, and welcome to the IncrediPaul podcast, where we learn how to become the most incredible versions of ourselves by learning from each other. Today, I have the honor of having Dr. Jason Selk, who is a keynote speaker, performance coach, a mental toughness expert on the podcast. So I kind of introduced you there, Jason, but how about you introduce yourself the way you would do it?
Well, Paul, considering today, I just told you, Auburn baseball just beat the number one team in the country 2 out of 3. It was definitely
Nice.
much needed win. I'm going to introduce myself this way: War Eagle. I'm a mental health professional. I spent the first probably 10 to 15 years of my career primarily in the sports world. I had a pretty high level of success. I was director of sports psychology with the St. Louis Cardinals baseball team. We won 2 World Series. I was with the team 6 years. But I had really the great fortune in the sports world in the first half of my career to literally work with some of the best coaches and athletes walking the planet. And it was awesome. It was just an outstanding experience for me. The winning obviously is really fun. The losing's terrible, but the learning is what was so invaluable to me, just studying, people who were the best in the world at their craft. And then the last 15, 20 years, I've been more in the business world, helping entrepreneurs, business owners,
So,
people in corporate America. Really, for me, the juice is all about helping somebody get better. And frankly, I don't really care if it's throwing a fastball a little bit more accurately or helping, somebody in the business world get their business going.
yeah,
Makes no difference to me. Just, I love to help people.
that's awesome. And I would say you talked about losing a little bit. I think the Cardinals need your help right now with this
Well, they
losing.
can't have me. I'm only working with one baseball team at a time. I had 6 great years with the Cardinals, and I honestly don't want to go back to the sports world.
Yeah,
My daughter goes to Auburn. So
Awesome.
I got kind of pulled into working with their baseball team last year, and they had a great season. So they asked me back, and now I work with Auburn's golf team, and I'm about to start with SMU's football team because,
Wow.
yeah, well, the head coach at SMU used to be one of the coaches at Auburn. So,
Okay.
but that's it. Anybody listening, if you are the GM of a team, don't call me about going to work for the team. I don't want to get back into the sports world any more than I already am.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So let's talk more about the business world. I think you've been more in that realm. You said the last like 10, 15 years. As far as what you can share, like what you've been working on, or where you specialize with, is it a lot of is it more with the CEOs or like everyone in the company? How does that work?
Yeah, so my price is, well, let's just say this: I'm not the cheapest coach in town or in the country. So I would say I work mostly with people in the C suites, if you're corporate America, or business owners. I try to have programs or products that can help anyone. Hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about this new app that we launched in
Yeah.
January, and certainly some of the books. And we've got some online courses that are very reasonably priced, but most of the one-on-one stuff is generally with CEOs, but C-suite people.
Yes.
Are you a STEM student? Do you have questions about life after undergrad? Are you not sure what professional development really means? Or maybe you just want to meet some incredible people and ask questions to someone who's been in your shoes before. The IncrediPaul student community is for college students who want some help navigating through college, finding their way into grad school, a career, or even starting a business. We will meet once a month for an hour each time. You can reach out with questions at any time through a special group of people you know are serious about their growth as a student leading into a professional. Go to IncrediPaul.org/community to learn more about this. You can also go to my About page, IncrediPaul.org/about, to learn more about me. Join me in becoming the most incredible student you can be.
That makes sense. Yeah, the one-on-one, that takes a lot of your time, but it's really awesome that you have other resources, whether it's the books or this new app. Well, we could just jump right in if you want to talk about it. You said it's a level up game plan or something like that.
Yeah, so that's the official well, if you're searching for it, obviously you could just put Level Up and then Jason Selk, but I think the official website, it's a little embarrassing that I'm not more on top of this, but it's levelupgameplan.com. Now, let me tell you why I'm not more on top of it. So I've had, even when I was back in the sports world, people try to partner with me on building apps and so forth. And my main focus since day one of opening my practice has not been grow this mega business. My main focus is create products, create programs that help individuals outperform the competition while improving their health and happiness. I
Yeah.
have been so focused on that I just really haven't put any energy into marketing or doing any of this technology stuff
Yeah.
to grow my own business. And whether it's a fault or not, things have gone fairly well for me. But about a year and a half ago, the guys that did, a lot of people have heard of the company Shutterfly.
Mhm.
They had a company that, this was the beginning of Shutterfly, was Tiny Prints. They built it and they sold it to Shutterfly, and it was a mega deal, $350 million. Well,
Wow.
anyway, these two guys reached out to me a year and a half ago, and they have more money than they could spend. I would think that's in my world plenty of money.
Yeah.
And these guys are young, and they're really wanting to help the world become a better place. And I feel really honored, but they reached out to me. They I think interviewed all kinds of life coaches and performance coaches, and they reached out to me about a year and a half ago, and they pitched this idea of creating an app. And like I said, I had for years had people tell me I needed it, and people try to partner with me. Well, these two are so good that I don't have to do anything other than my part. I don't know
Awesome.
anything about the business side of it. I don't know anything about how it was built or any of that stuff, but I know this, it is absolutely outstanding. But anyway, My normal coaching is, generally speaking, cost prohibitive for most people. Well, this is over the course of a year, the cost is $199, and we'll give anybody their money back at any time, no questions. This is not about money.
Hmm.
This is about teaching people to live healthy, live happy, develop mental toughness to a point where you can perform at or above your potential. But you have a lot of these coaches out there right now, and I'm actually working on my next book, which is a coaching book.
Awesome.
I'm very concerned about all the coaches that are out there that are coaching and really don't necessarily have the mental health training for the coaching. You get a lot of these coaches now that are just kind of the do one more mentality, which, I think for a short run that can be effective. But human beings, we're actually not built for this continuous and constant improvement.
Hmm.
We can't be, that's like the perfectionist mentality
Yeah.
where you can't live up to that for long. And what ends up happening is, I think you have people out there right now who might be using a coach and improving on their success, their professional success. But what they're experiencing is maybe a decline in health and happiness. And I would say, no doubt about it, if I ever have a client and they improve their success, but don't improve their health and happiness, that's not a win. That's a loss.
Yeah.
You as a coach, being a coach is a very, very big responsibility, whether you're coaching baseball or, in my opinion, people come to me for life coaching or performance coaching. You got to take it very, very seriously, and you have to know what you're doing, not for the short run, but for the long run. Anyway, long story short, I think we've created something really, really special here at a very cost inclusive price. And like I said, if people don't feel like it is way above expectation and way, way more than what they've paid, get your money back. We don't want anybody's money that's not completely satisfied. But I would tell you, check it out. It's a year's worth of content. If you hired me for one-on-one coaching, you come in 30 to 60-minute meetings. This is done in 3 to 5 minute segments at a time over the course of a year, but it is rock solid. And the guys that built it are just so good at their job. So levelupgameplan.com.
Awesome. And I'll definitely link that in the show notes. And yeah, for that
Great.
price, $109 for a whole year, that's less than the price of one coaching session for just an average coach. And I know your prices are way that.
Well, much higher than $199 for an hour. Yes.
So that's awesome that you're doing that. And this whole idea of helping people, whether it was in the sports world or the business world. So how did you even get on that path? Did you always know you wanted to be in the coaching realm with the mental toughness, or how, like, kind of walk me through your journey?
Yeah. So my parents were both mental health professionals. They were both caregivers, more in kind of the sociology or sociologists world. But they both did a lot of therapy. My dad was a director of a youth shelter. My mother was really kind of a policymaker with Alzheimer's and elderly. So I kind of got it from both sides. But we were the family that on Thanksgiving morning, we were getting up before the sun came up and going and doing Meals on Wheels, delivering
Awesome.
meals to the elderly. And then obviously, I grew up in a family where helping other people was not just something you talked about, but it was expected. Like, there was no, my brother and I didn't have a whole lot of say in, are we going to do this or not? And, I think helping people is one of those things where we're all these days so overwhelmed with our own stuff that it's real easy just not even to get around to helping other people. But it's kind of built into the DNA that when you do help people, there is tremendous give back. It's bigger than joy. They talk about in the mental health field the difference between joy and happiness. And joy is more just when you're experiencing, I'm watching this baseball game and we win the baseball game. That's joyous for me. But once the game's over or once the season's over, that joy will really kind of be gone. But happiness stays with you. And they really, the studies on this are pretty clear that you don't really get that happiness, the stay with you part of it, unless you're doing a lot of this stuff like giving back, helping other people, creating something.
Yes.
And I know that that was a house that I grew up in. And so once you grow up in that, we were kind of forced to do it, like I said, but whether we were forced or not, once you do get a taste of it, it is addictive. It is something that you want to try to continue. So, yeah, pretty early on, I knew I was a physical therapy major my first semester, and I realized that wasn't quite it, that it was more of, I wanted to get into therapy. I wanted to help people get better mentally and emotionally. And then I just kind of had this niche of sports psychology where things took off for me. But like I said, that's what juices me. I'm really
Yeah.
happy with the way my career's gone, but in
Yeah.
the end, being able to look at myself in the mirror and know that I've done something to help a lot of people, that's what's most important to me. And I am going to continue doing it, Paul, as long as I can, as long as my clients will have me.
That is amazing. This whole idea of being thankful and helping people, it's like I know you mentioned that it's a lot of health benefits to it that people don't realize. Is that something you can talk about with some of like of what the benefits are to like helping people or even just developing mental toughness?
Well, no doubt about it, that when you're, and it's not just helping people, there are all kinds of ways you can experience this happiness, but it really comes down to putting energy into something that then gives back, whether it
Mm,
be a human being. You could build a system, you could be working on a cancer cure, things
yeah.
like that are going to give back. But
Yes.
certainly, and I think you heard me talk about this. I don't know if the audience knows how we met, but we met
Yeah.
through your church.
Yeah.
David Blunt, Pastor Blunt's a very good friend of mine, and I did a speech for your church, and you were kind enough to come up and say hello. But in that speech, I talked about the neurotransmitters, cortisol, which is the negative neurotransmitter, and that's really a toxin for your body. And when you're doing things that you're giving back, where you're experiencing happiness, you cannot be releasing cortisol. Instead, you're releasing dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, epinephrine. So, really, the idea is do as many positive things as you can so that you
Yeah.
can avoid pushing cortisol into your bloodstream. The cortisol
Yes.
is what will kill us, and the statistic I love to share is people who are focused on solutions, people who are focused on controlling that cortisol, they
Yeah.
live up to 14 years longer than normal people. 14
Wow.
years. That's a
Wow.
long, long,
Yeah.
long time. So,
Yeah.
anyway, yes, there is tremendous biological benefit to doing things to help other people and to create a better life for people.
Yes. Oh, that's remarkable. Hearing you talk about the relentless solution focus when you came to our church for a bunch of business people there and you really
Are you wondering what's next? Has everything you tried failed? Or maybe you just feel stuck? Then coaching might be right for you. The coaching relationship is a relationship totally centered on you. If you're tired of running on the hamster wheel of life and want to start to see results, reach out to IncrediPaul for help. So what are you waiting for? Go to incredipaul.org/coaching, IncrediPaul.org/coaching, or at I am IncrediPaul on all my socials. Or you can click the link in the bio for your free coaching session. I want to make sure you become the most incredible version of yourself.
you broke it down to how you can develop your solution focus and transitioning from problem-centric thinking to trying to get it within 60 seconds. I'm not going to steal your thunder because that's all the stuff that you talk about. But I definitely want to talk about this. I think, is this your most recent book, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That came out so not just this recent January, but what would you say, 16, 18 months ago. Yeah, that's something I'm very, very proud of as well.
Yes, relentless solution focus. And so I was fortunate enough to get one of the ones that you signed.
Okay.
But this book, so I had the opportunity to read this book last year, and I think I kind of talked to you briefly about just the stuff that you broke down and really transitioning from that problem thought that you described is really how we're born to be evolutionary, that we're born to avoid problems, but the problems that we have today are not life or death situations. And so really transitioning into this RSF mindset, you can talk more about that.
Yeah. So biologically, and people don't know this, and I just I feel like knowing this information gives an individual such a distinct advantage. And I guess I didn't even understand how big the advantage was. I've got three children, and two of them now are in college. And both of them in their freshman year pulled me aside privately, unsolicited, and gave me a very genuine thank you. I got to be careful. I get emotional here thinking about it. But, I wasn't even sure what they were thanking me for, but it was this. It was really kind of teaching them from a very early age this idea of relentless solution focus. But the part that, and we could talk about why it's not being taught in schools and so forth, but we're not gonna, I don't think we should go there right now. But the part that people biologically, I think you really have an advantage if you understand, is you have a part of your brain. It's called the caudate, caudate. Nobody needs to take notes on that, but it's in our brains to actually continue a loop of problems. So I know as a mental health professional, they used to, I guess, just kind of theory is when you get people talking about their problems, that's what leads you to the solutions. But there's no empirical evidence actually to support that. And if you look at the biology, it's just the opposite. See, we've got this caudate that back in days where survival was an issue on a daily basis, hundreds and thousands of years ago, when you had to worry about the lion. If you saw the lion and you had a concern for it, but then you got distracted by something else, the lion was going to get you.
Yes.
And so what our brains were built to do, and we just haven't biologically evolved out of this yet, is when you saw the lion, it started the loop. And then you might get distracted over here with something else, but then that loop would bring you right back to the lion, and then the lion, and then the lion, and then the lion. And, hundreds and thousands of years ago, it was necessary for the evolution of our species. But today, there aren't, other than in the zoos. Now, of course, there are some lions walking the streets, but, it's a very safe time. As bad as it might seem at times, it's still, this is the safest time by far to ever be a human being.
Yes.
So that caudate loop that's still in all of our brains keeps us thinking about our problems, and there is no natural progression out of it. You must change the natural course of your brain. And the great news is you can train it, just like your bicep. Everybody's bicep, you're born normally and naturally the bicep's weak.
Yes.
If you do a little training, every bicep gets stronger.
Yes.
Same as with the brain. The caudate loop, I would tell you, is mental weakness. Now, there was an evolutionary reason for it, but we can turn that mental weakness into a strength. And that's RSF, relentless solution focus, is the exact opposite. And with some training, and again, we talk about this in the book, that it's really 3 minutes a day, 3 times a week. You do that training and you can't stop, but start letting that caudate, the loop, kind of breaks. It stops the ability to keep looping. And now you can break out and start thinking, okay, there's a problem over there. What am I actually going to do to make it better? And as most people listening, it's not rocket science. If you can just get yourself to think, what can I do to make this problem better? You actually start to put energy into it. But most people, we just continue to think about the problem and miss the idea of, okay, well, what am I going to do about it? And that's what RSF is all about.
That's remarkable. So I know that you kind of talked about with your kids, that you kind of had this process before. So when did you start writing this book, or how did this book even come to be?
With RSF, when did I start writing that one?
Yeah.
Well, I knew, I had been talking about RSF really from the beginning of my career. In fact, in my first book, 10-Minute Toughness, which is a sports psychology book, it's on pace to be one of the best sports psychology books of all time.
Awesome.
But I wrote that back in 2006. The first year I started with the Cardinals, I got a book deal and I put my mental training program in place. Well, RSF is actually the third phase of that book, 10-Minute Toughness. Okay. I've talked about RSF. The book RSF is actually my 5th book. But every book so far, my first 4, had at least one chapter titled RSF.
Okay.
So it's, and I guess over the years, it became, as I moved into the business world, when I was in the sports world, the mental workout was really what I was kind of famous for. And then in the business world, the mental workout is kind of a close second, but this concept of RSF, I was getting all these requests to do keynote speeches on RSF, and it's definitely my most requested speech. And so I don't know, 2 years ago, I said with my colleague who used to be my executive assistant, she went to school and got her doctorate and became a psychologist. And I said, Dr. Reed, you are fired. You cannot be my executive assistant. You are now my colleague. I'll hire you back as my colleague.
Yeah.
And if you take the job as my colleague, we're going to write this book together.
Yeah.
And so she kind of had an immediate bestseller to add to her name as a new clinician. And so her career has kind of blown up, but it's been in the works for a long, long time. And I was just kind of waiting for the right moment. I'm so glad I wrote it with Dr. Reed. She brings a female voice to it, which sometimes, I can have a bit of a blind spot considering I'm not a female, but I think she does a really nice job of softening the edges and bringing the female voice to it while still being very, very brutal about, hey, this is what's got to happen. I mean, there's absolutely, no, I don't want to mix words here. The book, I think, is well written by both of us, and both of us do a good job of being very clear. This is what you need to do if you want to get where you're trying to go in life.
Definitely. Oh, that's remarkable. I love that. So with RSF and Relentless Solution Focus, I know there's some stories in the book, but are there some people you come across that really model RSF really well?
Well, there's two that come to mind, and both stories are in the book, and both are really kind of difficult. One was a fella by the name of Rick Sheeler, and the whole Sheeler family really was talked about in the book. Rick had a daughter who was killed in an automobile accident. She was riding her bike and was hit by a motorist, and no drunk driving or anything like that, just a terrible accident. But the family, and they have a really large family, and they're very, very close, trying to work through that situation. Now, he had been a client of mine beforehand, and we had focused, primarily on business and his own performance and life, health and happiness.
Yeah.
So when this happened, we really leaned heavily on RSF, and I asked him to really try to help his family with the RSF. And I would tell you, and the stories in the book, it's really kind of a touching story. And they would all say that really, I don't know if you'd say if it was a lifesaver or not, but pretty darn close. That's one that really jumps out at me, in terms of, does this work? I mean, as a parent, that's every parent's worst nightmare. And I would tell you, if you can use RSF to get through something like that, no doubt about it. The other story, it's a really good friend of mine, Mark McLean. He was my son's soccer coach and probably one of the top 3 most influential people in my son's life. And Mark just came from a really, really tough background. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of texts from the Auburn baseball coaches right now. Sorry, I'm trying not to read them. Okay. Anyway, so Mark was this, came from really, really tough situation and really had to use RSF, although he didn't know even, the concept of RSF. He was just applying it. And he fought all the way through and against all odds, turned out and had this wonderful career. And he was an outstanding husband. And I know that he was so inspiring to me as a father. To me, his story was the most important. And I actually had a chance. He passed away before the book even got into the bookstores. I know it was such a terrible thing, but I feel really fortunate because I know it was really important. He had said to me a couple of times, and we used to coach football together, and so we did spend a good amount of time together. He had said to me that he wanted to write his own book, and he didn't have time to do that. He died unexpectedly, and obviously at an early age. But I had the chance to tell him, I said, Mark, I just read the book. It's the last time I'll read it before it, goes to print so nothing else can change. I said, your story is definitely the most powerful and to me, the most inspiring.
Yeah.
So I'm just really thankful I had a chance to at least tell him that. I know it brought him a lot of joy, but those are the two stories that really kind of jump out to me. If you have a chance to read the book, you'll know. I think it's chapter 4 and chapter 5 with the Sheeler family, and then Mark McLean's story. But those two are really special to my heart.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, so everyone listening or watching the podcast, if you're not watching the podcast, what are you doing? Go on YouTube and watch it. But definitely need to pick up this book, because I know you do a lot of stuff in sports, but this is not, well, you did a lot of stuff in sports, I did lots of in business, but relentless solution focus is something that you apply to pretty much every aspect of your life. If you're a living, breathing human being, pick up this book.
Agreed.
For sure. But just as far as you or your business, is there anything we haven't talked about yet that you want to talk about? I know we talked about blow-up game plan, we talked about relentless solution focus, we talked a little bit about your journey to where you are right now and your passion for helping people. Is there anything we've missed so far?
Yeah, I'd say this. Here's my experience. Life is really hard for people. Life's hard for everyone. I'd love to say, hey, I got this RSF thing in my head and I don't have any problems. And I would love that to be true, but everybody listening knows it's not true. We all have problems. And I know for me, I've been really fortunate. I've been really fortunate. I won the lottery when it comes to my parents. And, I was fortunate enough to kind of learn about this stuff. But I know this, for most people, life is really, really, really hard. Yeah. And I guess there's a couple of things I would want people to know. Look, you're not in this alone. In fact, we're all in this together. Like, everybody is going to experience difficulty in life, no doubt about it. And some of the problems we experience, they're going to be brutal, and again, some people have it far worse than others, and it's not a competition. But just no matter where you are in life, realize, hey, look, you're not in this alone.
Yes.
We're all in this together. And everybody has people in their corner. When you have those difficult times and you're having a hard time, don't isolate. Go to the people in your corner. Lean on people. I know for me, it's really hard. I don't know, maybe I've created this in my own mind, but I have these expectations that when I'm having problems, it's not okay to go and be weak and be vulnerable. I've had to work through that. That's ridiculous. All of us have problems and we all need to go to other people. It's hard. And for me, I hate to ask for help, but look, when you need help, you go lean on the people in your corner. Okay. And that'd be the first thing. And the second thing is you can change what's going on in your life, and I think there's still a lot of people out there that believe, hey, this is who I am and this is where I am in life and there's really not anything I can do about it. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm living proof that's not true. I think I'm outperforming what people would have thought I was capable of. Now, that's not what the point of this second piece is. The point is, look, we have scientific proof. You can't argue this. You can change. If you want to, there are things that you can improve. And I think what happens is most time people don't know where to start. And I'm going to tell you, here's the science. You got to start by changing the thoughts. You must change the thoughts first. If you can go to work on the thoughts, start believing in yourself, start focusing on solutions instead of problems. What's going to happen is the way you feel and the way you behave will follow the thoughts, but the thoughts must be the leader. That's how real change is made, is going to work on your thoughts.
That's powerful. So powerful. Well, we are about out of time, but I want to make sure people know where to find you, whether it's on socials, your email, and definitely talk about Level Up Game Plan again.
Yeah, I think probably the easiest place is jasonselk.com. That's my website. Obviously, we're not trying to hide anything. And I tell you, we try to put a lot of free stuff out. We've got a weekly I don't want to call it a newsletter because that sounds a little trite and it's not quite how we do it. Sometimes our weekly message is one sentence long,
Yeah.
but we try to do something weekly. You don't have to pay for anything. It's just, hey, this is one thing to think about this week that'll help you with the mental toughness, help you to move forward. But if you just go to jasonselk.com, pretty much everything's there. The two things I'd tell you to really look for would be that levelupgameplan.com and Relentless Solution Focus, the book.
Awesome. Well, it's been an honor and a pleasure having you on the podcast, sharing your insight, your years of knowledge. And once again, I'll say go Auburn for what you're doing with them and their baseball team, and just your passion to help people just exudes as you're talking. And I'm really excited for this Level Up Game Plan. Right after we get done talking, we're going to sign up for it and get this.
Okay. Well, Paul, thanks for having me. I remember when you came up and introduced yourself. That big smile of yours is very contagious. Keep using it, my friend. I appreciate you having me on. I know you're out there doing some good with this podcast, so keep it up. If I can help in any way, you reach out.
All right. Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure. And for everyone listening, I hope you learned from Dr. Jason Selk's story, what he's done so far. Definitely pick up his book, Relentless Solution Focus. It will transform your life. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the IncrediPaul podcast with Paul Ferranbi. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you here next time. And be incredible. Incredible. Incredible.